Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. It's so great to be here. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Numerics, for giving me the opportunity to share a passion of mine, which is self-leadership. Please say hi in the comments. I want to know who's here. Share your name. How's it going? Is your Monday off to a great start? I really hope it is. And as I'm waiting to hear from you and say hi, I'm just going to take a few moments to introduce myself and who I am. So my name is Eleni Dracopoulos, and I'm a self-leadership coach. And what that means and where that stems from is essentially I help people be very accountable and intentional with the choices that they're making in their lives, and make sure that they're aware of the choices that they're making in their lives, and they really feel that they have a sense of ownership. This motivation has been a very cumulative journey. Hi, Maya, how's it going? Yeah, so this has been a very cumulative journey for me because when I was growing up, I literally felt like I had so many roadblocks and detours in life. And I felt like I was trying to find a sense of direction, and I was always lost. And I got to this point that I asked myself, why am I getting lost all the time? Where are things not going right? And why is it that I don't feel like I have ownership over my choices, over my plans? And so what ended up happening is, after a lot of challenges, I realized that I wasn't following my own leadership. I was being led by others' ideas, by others' opinions, by others' perspectives, by other people's wishes, by other people's insecurities. And so it brought me into a journey to really discover, well, what do I want to do? And what are my real decisions and choices and motivations? And so here we are today. Hi, Ingrid. It was so nice to hear from you. And so what we're going to start off on this Lunch and Learn is, are your choices really yours? Okay, so we make so many choices in a day, from what we eat, to where we go, to who we speak to the careers that we have, to the relationships that we decide to start and develop, but whether they're romantic or in our family lives. And the question is, are those choices really ours? And what I mean by that is that there are so many choices and habits that we have that are happening on an unconscious level, or rather a subconscious level, because of past conditioning, because of just the way that we were brought up. And until the age of 7, and later until the age of 13, we're just amassing all of this information that's essentially coding our brain for how we should live and how we should survive, that until our later formative teenage and early adulthood years, we're not even aware of all the conditioning that happened. And so it's kind of like somebody decided in our childhood how we were gonna code and run the programs of our brain. And in our adulthood, so many of those programs are running, and we never actually had a hold on those programs and what they were. Hi, Jennifer, nice to see you. So the whole idea here is that, how can we bring more consciousness, and how can we reconnect with ourselves in a deeper way to say, like, are the choices that I'm making run by programs that I'm actually aware of, that are intentionally chosen by me, that I have a sense of empowerment and responsibility over, right? And the biggest way to connect with that is that as you're making decisions in your life, you're going to hear voices in your head, right? Like, oh, do this, do it that way. Oh no, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe I should be, going towards there. And just stop and question, well, are those voices that I'm hearing, are they mine? Is that my voice telling me what to do? Or is that the voice of my parents, of my past teachers, of past relationships, of past colleagues, of a past boss? Maybe it was a bully when you were growing up, right? Maybe it's your fear that's talking, and not your most empowered self that's talking. And so if we can start to kind of discern and sift through all of the voices in our head when we're making choices on the day-to-day, whether they're like the small choices of like, what am I purchasing and what am I putting into my body, to the big choices of where am I moving and how am I living and what my career is and am I in the right relationship, then we can start to say like, wow, I'm actually not listening to my voice. And less than that, I don't even know what my voice sounds like because it's so buried underneath everybody else's voice. And so this is where leadership comes in. Hi, Lynn. Nice to see you here. Come, enjoy. So this is where self-leadership comes in. And what I like to explain self-leadership as is essentially just take the word and piece it apart. So you have the leader of your ship, right? And if you imagine, your life as this ship, like mine is like the Saint Eleni, or, like ships have names on them on the side of it. If you imagine this is your ship and you're behind the wheel and you're steering it in any which way in your life, are you actually the one leading it? Are you the one leading the ship of your life? So, and this is an important question, whether we're talking about leading a team or we're talking about leading your own life. Because even if we want to go and lead other people, let's say you're in an organization, let's say you have people below you, you're delegating, you're trying to impact, you're trying to inspire. If you haven't connected with your own self-leadership, if you haven't connected with who you are, how you function, and how you thrive, it's going to be a lot more difficult to connect to the people in your team and motivate them. And Brené Brown says, who you are is how you lead. And so if you don't know who you are, if you haven't connected to the deepest parts of yourself and understand yourself, what happens, and then there's this disconnect on how you're leading other people in your environment. Because the deeper we go into our own world and we understand ourselves and we relate to ourselves and we understand our challenges, that actually gives us this reference point of how to then go and help other people thrive, be inspired, actually really step into their potential. And that's when people are going to start to appreciate you as a good leader. Thank you, Ingrid. I'm so happy you're seeing the connections. It's one of my favorite things, to take all the pieces, all the mess, and connect them all together. So essentially, that's that. And I like to use analogies. Now, when we're talking about self-leadership, okay, I believe there are 3 steps to self-leadership. The first one is knowing who you are, how you function, and how you thrive. And the knowing who you are part is just getting familiar with what makes you you. Like I like to use the analogy in my coaching with my clients that they're this toolbox and I'm the key helping them open the toolbox, and we're reviewing all the tools within their toolbox. Some of them they were aware of and some of them they weren't aware of. Once we know the tools that are within, then we step into the how you function. So like, oh, look, I have this tool over here and it helps me do this thing and it helps me do that thing, right? And then knowing the best situations to use them in and the best situations where you might not be using them in and maybe you want to collaborate with someone else, that's you stepping into how you thrive. So the very first step of self-leadership is knowing who you are, how you function, and how you thrive. The second part is, now that you have all of these things at your disposition, you got to identify who's running the programs in your mind, aka whose voice are you listening to? Because if you're listening to everybody else's voice, it's all great to have this toolbox full of wonderful tools that could serve you, but you're using them for the wrong reasons, right? There's this expression that says, this quote that says, make sure if you're climbing up the ladder, it's leaned against the right wall, because then you're going to be doing all this work for the wrong reasons. That's the second part of self-leadership. You got to make sure that you're listening to the right voices. You got to make sure of who is running the programs and start to take that awareness and inventory and disassociate from the programs that no longer serve you. And so the third part is where you need to intentionally choose how you want to live each aspect of your life, okay? And when you start to do that, yes, Ingrid, knowing who you are, how you function, and how you thrive. Take notes. And so when you start to do that, when you start to intentionally choose how you want to live, that's really based on your standards and your vision, right? And we're not often asked that. Like, what are your standards for how you want to live the different areas of your lives, right? So before I go any further, I want to know, like, is this resonating with everyone here? And is it making you think like, geez, like, can I actually identify which voices are mine and which aren't? Do you feel that in your head you have that internal battle of fog and chaos and not necessarily knowing if it's your voice that you're hearing on the day-to-day? I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to wait for just a minute. Missed the second one though. Can you slowly repeat all of at the end? Yeah, I can repeat them now, Ingrid. So the 3 steps for self-leadership. So the first one is knowing who you are, how you function, and how you thrive. The second one is identify who is running the programs in your mind. All right, so is it your voice that's telling you what to do? Or is it everybody else's voice? So who's running the programs in your mind? And then the third step is to intentionally choose how you want to live by your standards. So if anyone, does anybody have that sense of, I don't know if the choices that I'm making are mine. I'm not really sure. I haven't really thought about it. I'd love to hear. Thanks, Patrick, for sharing. Well, if you don't want to share, you're munching on your sandwich or your salad, that's totally okay. But I want you to start to think about, like, are the choices you're going to be making really yours? And here's the thing. Most of our poor choices come from a low self-trust, okay? And the reason we have low self-trust is because we don't know ourselves. And the reason why we don't know ourselves is because as we grow in this very structured society, we're not allowed to explore, learn, and fail in the process of self-discovery, right? We need to get all the check marks right away. We need to succeed on a specific timeline. We need to have this by this age. We have the pressure from our families. For me, it's a sense of fear. I trust myself to make the right choices at time. Well, that's it. If you have a sense of fear, it's usually because you don't have enough practice of making the choices. And so when you don't have that practice, right, of making the wrong choices, you can't also have the practice of making the right choices. And yes, Maya, the doubt is the same thing, okay? So doubt and fear and lack of trust and lack of confidence all come from the fact that society does not allow us to make mistakes. Society does not allow us to have trials and tribulations. But just like any ship leading in a storm, the waters are not always calm. You need to learn how to navigate the storms. And in that process of navigating storms, things are going to get messy. Things are going to get hard. And it's in that process of getting into those difficult circumstances and learning how to get through them that you start to develop more self-trust, more courage. I'm so happy, Ingrid, that you're taking more self-leadership. So more courage, But you also have to embrace the fact that you're going to be making mistakes, because it's kind of like saying, well, if I'm learning if this new tool is going to serve me, and this new tool is your compass and your own inner compass, in order to make sure if it points the north that you want it to point, right? Yeah, the storm analogy. In order, if it's pointing in the way that you want it to point, you need to try it out first. You need to develop trust with your own system. So what I welcome you to do is to learn to be a little bit more open. And if you want to take more ownership of your choices, if you want to be a self-leader and you want to feel that empowerment, you need to have a little bit more courage to say like, okay, well, I'm going to tread into unknown waters, and I know and I anticipate that I'm going to be making a few mistakes. And in that process, right, in that process of making a few mistakes and knowing that they're going to happen, I'm going to get to like sharpen my compass and know that after a few tries, I'm going to know exactly where it leads me, and it's going to be my north, and it's going to feel great. Okay. So the self-leadership is it's a self-discovery process which supports the unique way we function, grow, and thrive. And that's a very important word. It's unique. I don't grow like you do. Jasmine, Maya, Ingrid, Lynn, you guys don't grow in the way other people do. And if I'm comparing my growth and my success to the next person, I've already failed, because I'm not leading based on my own compass. That is not self-leadership. That's comparison. And you've already failed. The moment you start comparing, it's defeated the purpose of your life. The purpose is for you to figure out how you work and what your compass is. Okay? So before I let you go, I have a parting question, and I want you to take note of this next part, and it's to get you thinking. If we look at our life like a spectrum, and you can consider, let's say, the wheel of life. For those of you who know it, if you don't, you can search for it online, the wheel of life. The idea is that to take an inventory where we're actually focusing on our life, we divide it in different sections. So I'm going to propose 9 areas of your lives, and you can just write it down, and then I'm going to ask you 2 questions. So number 1 is career. Number 2 is money. Then we have health, friends, family, the relationship with yourself, your romantic relationships, fun and leisure, because that's very important too. And for those who connect to it, spirituality. I know that not everybody is religious or spiritual, so that's okay. But for some people, it's a big deal, especially recently. So those categories: career, money, health, friends, family, relationship with yourself, romantic relationship, fun and leisure, spirituality. Thank you, Patrick. That is the wheel of life, which changes depending on different resources. You can make your own depending on how you view your life, but that's an idea of how you can spread out the different aspects of your life. So now that you have that list written down, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The first question is, which areas does your self-leadership come naturally in and that you always prioritize? So think of it like, is it your career? Is it your friends? Is it your health? Are you really good at working out and eating healthy? Like, which ones do you already focus on and prioritize? The second question is, which ones are still running on autopilot and can benefit from you leading them with more intention? So maybe there are areas of your life that you haven't really given a second thought to, and you've just been always doing it the way you've always been doing it. You haven't ever really asked yourself, is there a different way to do it? And the reason you're doing it is because that's how you were raised. that's how you were taught. It's worked for you so far, or it's worked like okay. And so you've just stuck with it. And so I want to invite you to think about it. So I'm going to repeat the two questions. The first question is, which areas does your self-leadership come naturally in? If we're looking at the wheel of life, which areas does your self-leadership come naturally in? Like the ones that you already prioritize because they're fun, because they interest you, because it's just where you're gravitating towards. So which areas does your self-leadership come naturally in? And the second question is, which areas are still running on autopilot? Which areas are still running on autopilot and can benefit from you leading them with more intention and self-leadership? So that's my little homework to you, so you guys can go and check it out. And if this resonates with you, I have a new self-leadership program out called Master Yourself. It's a 6-week intensive program where we tackle who you are, how you function, and how you thrive. And it's about really designing the compass that's going to help you lead your choices from a place that you've chosen. So if you struggle with self-doubt, if you struggle with self-trust, if you're fearful or you don't feel like you're empowered in how you're living your life, this is an interesting program for you, and you can check it out on my website. You could check it out on my website, which is Eleni, ELENIDR.com. And yeah, thanks, Patrick. You're great. And I put the outline, I put the breakdown there, and then you can connect with me for a 1-hour discovery call so we could talk about what you're working on right now and see how I can help you further. You can also find me on Instagram. I put lots of content there. So my handle is @Eleni Dracopoulos, my full name. I share stories, I share videos, I share content, and I'd love to connect with you further if we don't already know each other. I hope this served you. I hope this got the gears turning in your noggin, in your head, and that it was a fun and yet light catalytic lunch break for you all. I'm wishing you a beautiful, beautiful week. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you for your kind words. I'm wishing you all a beautiful week, positive vibes, and I hope to connect. Thanks so much, Patrick. This was great, everyone. Mwah. Bye.